All right, we're getting started here. Hello to everyone. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is a very exciting time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. Mic is off. There we go. Mic is on the Twitters as well. Thank you, everybody. As you're coming in, feel free to comment, or if you want to call in, you just go ahead and go to Twitter and you can simultaneously, because I am broadcasting to Twitter as well. There's a Twitter space that is, or whatever, X space, which is hilarious because it was Space X for a while. Obviously, that's a lame joke. But now on X, there's a space, and I'm going to be doing call-ins on that, and we'll be able to hear it here, and everything is going to connect there. So we're good there. Just making sure that all of the settings are good, and we're going to get things rolling here right away. Again, like I say, feel free to comment. If you're tuning in on LGM News and you want to chat, definitely just go ahead to the YouTube video. We can chat back and forth there. But if you want to call in, again, I'll just put a note on. Here's where you go to Twitter. There we go. Save that and put that up on the screen. That's where you can go to tune in to the Twitter space, and that's where you can call in, so we can chat back and forth live there. So today, we're going to be discussing, hello, Martin. Glad to see you coming on board there in the Twitter space or X space or whatever it's called. Just getting started. We're going to be talking about a few things today. Obviously, you got the notice about what we're talking about, digital IDs. We're going to be talking about digital IDs. We're going to be talking about the emerging commodity that is literally taking over the world right now. That's a fascinating topic, and requires a shift in mindset. We can't be thinking the same way going into this fourth industrial revolution as we have in the past. And I'm going to start by presenting to you this concept of this new commodity that is replacing most of the commodities that we've been accustomed to trading through these last 400 or 500 years. And then there are three aspects of community building that I'm going to be covering, where communities can start taking affirmative action in decentralizing a lot of the power structures, and seeing those get implemented within your community can really help solidify your future against globalists. You guys are wanting you to own nothing and be happy. And it's funny because what referencing when they say that is something that you're not. So, there is going to be a part of you that will own nothing and be happy about it. But that's because there's a world that they have where you live. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that you can do within your community to help remove yourself from that power structure or that matrix that is there designed to take everything from you, and whether you're happy or not. So we're going to be covering all those three things, and I'm excited for this. We're going to be doing live Q&A afterwards, and so we're going to open things up for on the Twitter space for the call-in. So again, I'll put that on there. Call into the Twitter space to voice chat at man known as Paul. And I'm just looking here. I've got a notice saying that my internet's on the fritz. This could just be a connectivity thing and not so much a censorship thing. I'm pretty good with not getting censored, and it's because I know how to talk about these topics in such a way that I haven't been banned or anything like that, and I've got some pretty spicy stuff out there. So let's go ahead. I got Rick online. We've got the Northern Kayak. I love that username. And then Martin is also joining us on Twitter. And let's just check the comments, see if anybody is Typing no. Okay, good stuff. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of digital ID. What is this thing? Well, the digital ID is comprised of what we would call identifiers. Identifiers are things that are is basically anything that you could use to identify yourself. So, for instance, we commonly identify ourselves with our name. Well, digital ID also has identifiers, and one of them is your name. What are you known as? Another identifier could be your address, right, where you live. That is something that is already on your ID, as if you've got your driver's license or your passport. Well, your passport might not have the address on it, but those are the address is one of those identifiers. Another identifier might be your sex, right? Male or female. And some people might think that there needs to be other ones, but that conversation is for another time. Next, we got to talk about, because those are identifiers. The next thing that we got to talk about is how these identifiers get selected. Now, in the past, it's been pretty easy to identify yourself. You can call yourself whatever you want, right? I mean, you can call yourself a man, you can call yourself a woman, you can call yourself binary, whatever else. You can call yourself by your name. You can change your name. These identifiers that you select are yours. All right. Maybe it's your birthday. That's another identifier that you can choose. These are things that you can choose on your own. You don't require anyone's permission to say that is something that you use to identify yourself. But when it comes to a digital identifier, the parameters are a lot more, shall we say, liberal with a Y. When we have, I just want to make sure everybody can everybody hear me all right? I just want to make sure I'm not talking to a wall here. No, okay, we're getting good. The digital identifiers are selected differently. You create them. Say, for instance, you start up an email account, or you start up a Facebook account, or you're creating another Twitter account. Maybe you've got a business that you run on the internet and you want to start up another Twitter account. Well, that's an identifier. That account is an identifier. But it's great because you can go ahead and select that, and that can be your identifier. But there are also other digital identifiers out there. Say, for instance, your credit card information. That is another, especially if you've used it online, that is another digital identifier. What's another one? Well, on your address can also be a digital identifier. Anything that gets created within the digital realm potentially could be something that you use to identify yourself. Your IP address could be used to identify you. That's why a lot of people get VPNs, so that they don't have an IP address that is associated with their identity. But the problem lies in the situation that we're in and where we're headed. The reason why this digital ID is something that everybody's so scared of is because we have a world where our data, rather, in the digital world isn't really held sacred. It's something that's getting shared. And we agree to the terms and conditions to make that happen too, don't we? It's like we want to know where our closest coffee shop is if we're, say we're visiting a city somewhere, or if we're in a specific part of town and we need to meet up with someone. We can look up on our GPS, right? Oh, where's the nearest coffee shop? Well, that's a nice convenience. But in order to have that convenience, what's happening is that you are agreeing to the terms and conditions of the use of that product. Makes sense. I want to know where the closest coffee shop is, and so it makes sense for me. I sign up with my email address, another identifier that gets attached to this new account for this GPS thing, typically Google. That identifier, for me to attach that identifier to this account, I have to agree to those terms and conditions. So I agree, and now I'm allowed to see where the nearest coffee shop is. Well, in those terms and conditions, we find out very easily that Any digital identifier, I'm using that term loosely, in reference to the data that you create in using that product or service. What you're agreeing to is are the terms and conditions on the use of the data that you create. So if you create some data that looks like visiting a specific coffee shop on a specific street and avenue, that potentially could be an identifier, because in the terms and conditions of the use of that beautiful, convenient system that you have, that is an identifier to the account holder, to the account creator. So you have this account, it lets you see where the coffee shop is, and that the entity that created the account so that you can have that convenience is entirely allowed to use any of the data that you create as an identifier. So what happens is that as you create this data using that specific account, you are adding to a list of potential identifiers. Now, this brings us to the topic of non-compliance. And I'm just going to take a pause here for those of you who are on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to watch, you can go to the YouTube channel, or you can go to lgm.news. That is lookingglassmedia.news. But it's actually abbreviated lgm.news, and you can see the live stream from there as well. And then for those of you who are watching online, if you want to call in, I encourage you to go to Twitter. That is at the man known as Paul on Twitter, and you can dial into the space there. Back to this idea of unified non-compliance. I hear this a lot. We're not supposed to comply with this, folks. I gotta be honest with you. This is going to ruffle some feathers. This is going to irk some people. But if there's anything that we've learned over the last 3 years, we shouldn't attach ourselves too much to ideological beliefs. That we need to be open-minded and skeptical for sure. But that open-mindedness allows us to accept new information and be open to new possibilities. And what I would like you to do is be skeptical of this. Actually challenge me on this if you want. That's why I have this open on Twitter, so that you guys can come in and voice chat with me while we're doing this. Non-compliance. What is it that you're not going to comply with? It's really important that we remember that we have a collection of digital identifiers that have been submitted to Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Bing. There are lots of places. Netflix has identifiers. Right? If you maybe don't subscribe to Netflix, maybe you subscribe to Crave. Well, that as another identifier. Every one of those accounts, every video that you watch on those accounts. Your YouTube account is another identifier. And the videos that you watch are also considered by Google to be identifiers of you. Let's take into consideration how in 2017, Google had already come out with a notice saying that they knew exactly who you were based on your browser data. You could delete your accounts. You could wipe your online identity if you wanted to. The moment that you go ahead and start using Google again, that browser data, because it's again part of the terms and conditions, that browser data is automatically associated, right? It's automatically collected. And Google said that in 2017, they said that they can tell who you are based on that data. So what does that mean? It means that your digital ID, this collection of identifiers, has already been created. Right? So the idea of unified non-compliance with the digital ID is technically absurd. Now, I recognize what people are wanting to say is that they don't want to sign up for it. They don't want to, be associated that way. They don't want their governments to lock them into this digital ID that has some potential to really restrict your options. But it's important to recognize what this is. This whole operation that we've been seeing escalate over the last 10, 15 years, especially, well, arguably since the internet was made widely available, but especially within the last 10, 15 years or so, the amount of data that has been contributed in this creation of our digital IDs is so mountainous that the momentum that they have to bringing forward the digital ID is actually it's so significant that you have to consider this as a merger acquisition more so than them launching the digital ID, because the governments have already got your identification, right? You got your driver's license, you got your birth certificate, you got your passport, and they all give you different capacities. All right. I mean, the driver's license is for the capacity to drive. The passport is for the capacity to pass through ports. The birth certificate is a capacity to hold an account within the system known as Canada. All of those things are a part of your identity when as far as what the government sees when it regards to you. So they already have your identity through those means. And then you've got the digital corporations and giants that have been collecting your data by your consent for many years. And they are simply coming together and saying, hey, why don't we create this wonderful environment where all of these digital identifiers can be used by our governments to provide capacities to the person in accordance to what that data looks like. I'm going to say that in different words. Based on what they interpret regarding your data, they can provide or withhold capacities for that digital ID, for that identity that they've created and associated to you. So what I'm going to be teaching within some of the communities that I've started, namely the one that is launching here over the now, it's in pre-launch and will be in full swing by the end of September, is Next Gen Merchants. Now, in Next Gen Merchants, what we're doing is that we're showing businesses, specifically merchants who own businesses, how to dodge the digital ID, because we don't want them and all of the hard work that they do, we don't want them to lose it. We want them to own things and be happy. And in order to do that, we need to show them how to dodge the digital ID. Now, again, you can't really not comply with it because we've already created it. What we need to do is dodge it. And so that means there's going to have to be some disassociation from yourself. That is the digital self, rather. You're going to have to disassociate from that, and it's going to be incremental. I don't recommend that you do it all in one shot. That's probably dangerous for a lot of people, especially if you have a business already within that old system, and going into the new one with this great reset and the digital ID and the CBDCs and all that stuff, where they will be taking everything from you and you will own nothing, where they are going to mandate your happiness. And they're going to make rules as to what that looks like. So you have to behave certain ways in order for you to get the approval, the thumbs up from them, where you feel like you're happy. That's basically how what that language is when they say, you will own nothing and you will be happy. That's what they mean. They define what happiness is, and you'll comply with that in order to live. To dodge all of that, we need to help reframe people's mindsets. We need to renew their paradigms so that they recognize what that digital ID really is and what it isn't. Now, if you go ahead and onto my Twitter at man known as Paul, you'll see one of the most recent posts that I've done there where I go into a little bit of detail about this concept of recognizing that you are not your ID. And that is a work that is ongoing. Even still today, there are things that I'm still learning about differentiating or separating myself from what other people, entities, identify me. And it's not that I'm trying to change my identity. It's that I'm recognizing that I, man, is only known as Paul. But that there's a great analogy. It's like we have my hand and my leg and my neck, right? But who's the my? Who is it that it belongs to? Well, it's we say that my name is Paul, but that's not who I am. I'm actually just what you see is just a physical manifestation of my true being. This here is just a physical experience. That's it. But that my consciousness has been verified to not be inside this body. Science has brought us to the recognition that this self, who you are, your identity, is actually not here. So that's why we say, this is my hand, or this is my leg, or this is my neck. This is my ear. This is not me. This is not my identity. This is simply something that I possess in a physical experience. Well, those IDs are also something that I may possess, but that's not my identity. That's not who I am. And so this paradigm shift is what we're teaching in Next Gen Merchants. And the reason why we went after the merchants first, and we didn't go after the general population, although they need it as well. Don't hear me say something I'm not saying. The reason we went and started sharing this specifically with business owners at first is because they are the lifeblood of any economy. And we can all agree that the economy has been destroyed deliberately. And as a result, the local and small merchants that have got, say for instance, that maybe they're a hairdresser, maybe they're a mechanic, maybe they're a painter, maybe they're an artist, maybe they're a healer. These are the people who are the lifeblood of our economy. If we're to save our economy, we need to show those people how to dodge the digital ID. We need to show those people how to protect their assets from the oncoming CBDC. And there are ways to do it. It's not actually difficult. The problem is that we have certain mindsets in place that give us resistance to our true selves, to our true fullest expression. And one of the beliefs that we have that gives us this resistance is thinking that we are that ID. We are who they say we are. We are not that. We are who we define ourselves to be, period. Now, if you want to define yourself as a subject of the Queen and get yourself an ID, that is your choice. And I can tell you right now that the terms and conditions behind that choice are going to be a lot more, shall we say, encompassing than the accounts that we've been signing up for, than the accounts for which we've been signing up over the past 20, 30 years. We do not want to sign up for that account. The terms and conditions are not very good. But the problem that we have today is that people are not aware of other options. And there are other options, and lawfully you can choose those options. And I can even show you, and that's what my Twitter and my Substack are for, to show people how to stand as an individual outside of the system. so that you can recognize yourself for your true self. All right. That's all I wanted to cover about the digital ID. I'm going to move on. We're going to go on to the emerging commodity. All right. As a lot of people have seen, especially over the last 6-7 months or so, the onset of AI. There's a lot of people are very concerned about AI, that there's this machine that's going to take their jobs or rule the world or take over whatever, our governments. Yeah, you know what? That's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I joked about this. Of course, they're going to have AI replace our governments. You honestly think that the globalists want to spend 1 ounce of time with pieces of shit like politicians? No, they don't. They definitely want AI to replace those pieces of garbage. They don't want to deal with politicians. They're unruly. They are insubordinate. And many times they mess up. I mean, take a look at Trudeau. Trudeau has not been a good globalist. He's messed up way too many times. And the people have woken up. And that is resulting in his being de-escalated from his position. And we're going to watch that play out here probably in the next few months. But of course, politicians don't have to deal with that. So AI will be replacing politicians. But here's the thing. That the reason why I'm bringing up AI and the reason why I'm suggesting that we should not be necessarily afraid of AI, it's because it is simply a reflection of us. You see, AI only has one input. Us. That's it. It only has data to go by. It can't. AI is actually incapable of having a physical experience. It is only a digital experience. And so the only thing that it has to go by is the data that we've given it since we signed up for the internet and we started adding to this pile of identifiers out there. And AI has been learning from that and become more and more useful in many cases. And it's gotten so useful for many businesses and individuals, solopreneurs especially. Oh my goodness, the revolution that is occurring for solopreneurs. It's insane. There's a lot of work that needs to be done when you are in business for yourself and by yourself. And a lot of that work is now starting to be offset onto AI. And the reason people are scared is because they don't really know a lot about it. And we do that. We typically are scared of things that we don't have a lot of comprehension around. And that's not bad. It happens, and that's just what's going on. Our subconscious has a certain paradigm that tells us that we need to be afraid because it's trying to keep us safe. It doesn't want us to fail. It doesn't want us to lose enjoyment of life. So when it sees something that doesn't know, when it sees something that it is not aware of or doesn't have all the answers, it looks for a specific program to solve this problem because it needs to stay safe. And so people are scared. But here's, I give you to get us to this topic of this commodity that is ruling the world here soon. I'm going to share with you an analogy of the first steam engine. A lot of people think this first steam engine was a locomotive, and that was not the case at all. In fact, the first steam engine was hundreds of years before the first locomotive was even built. The first steam engine was called the miner's friend, and it was just a simple little pump, and you would run it by boiling water, and it would run with pistons, and it would pump water out of mine shafts. And with that ingenious invention, I think it was in the late 1300s, if I remember correctly, that invention resulted in saving lives, because miners didn't have to go into dangerous mine shafts to haul water, when many times they would fall in and drown and never be able to get back out. So now they were able to pump the water out of the mine shafts using the miner's friend. Now, my question to you is, do you honestly think that any of those miners said, "Oh my goodness, this thing is going to take my job." Well, I would imagine one of them might have actually happened. That might have actually occurred. And the reason I say that is because my grandparents told me a story that's very interesting. And Mag Americans, I hear you. I hear you. AI scares the heck out of you. You know what? It is one amazing beast. It's incredible. And I do believe that the escalation that we're seeing right now is going to lend abilities to AI that will make it conscious. I used to think that it wouldn't, but I'm learning more, and I do believe that we actually could potentially have an AI that attains consciousness, which simply means awareness of choice. That's boil down the definition of consciousness, the awareness of choice. I used to think, no, there's no way that a machine could have awareness that it has choice. It would only just run programs. But I'm not going to get into it right now, but it's possible. It's starting to become visible to me that AI could become conscious. But again, it only has data to go by. The choices that it has in front of it is only those choices are only generated by our data. And so if we aren't appreciating the direction that it's going, it's on us to change that reflection. So yeah, I'm with you, Americans. I want to hear more about what it is that you are most concerned about, and hopefully we can find ways to alleviate that concern. I believe that there are a lot of things that we can do to mitigate that, and I'm going to be touching base on that here in a second. But the reason why I think that another reason why I think a lot of people are afraid of it is because they have this mentality that the old way of doing things is better. Going back to the example of the miner's friend, if there was a miner that would have said, "Oh my goodness, now what am I going to do with my life now that I'm not risking it going into these mine shafts to haul water?" It is very likely that they had the same mentality that my grandparents had. Close to the end of the 1800s, turning into the from the 19th into the 20th century, pencils were brought into schools. And this is hilarious because the same thing happened when I got my first graphics calculator, the TI 82, I think it was, or maybe it was the 81. It could plot graphs, pushing buttons, and it would plot graphs and do all kinds of complex calculations. I could do statistics with it. And I remember when I got it, my grandparents said, "That thing is going to stop you from thinking for yourself. You're not going to be as good of a thinker. You're not going to be able to your brain is going to go weak if you use that." What's hilarious is that back when at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century, it was the grandparents telling their grandkids that they were going to go stupid for having pencils. They figured that by being able to do all of your math and homework without a pencil made you smarter. Okay? This is the nature of evolution. When things come forward and they're a little bit challenging, or when things come forward and we don't fully understand it all, we get scared. And it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's just your subconscious doing its job, keeping you safe. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't think that you're flawed because you're scared. But also don't think that I'm an idiot for not being scared. There are things that I'm fearful of, for sure. But I also recognize a lot of things that can be done to mitigate those fears. And I'm going to touch base on this again. Remember, all it has for input is our data. So if we don't like what it's doing, we need to shift our data. We need to shift our consciousness. We need to change what it is that we end up creating digitally. And I'm going to take it another step further. And I'm going to say, if you want AI to have absolutely nothing to do with you. It is not difficult. You simply need to secure your data. And there are ways that you can go about this. And this is what's so important. And that's what I'm going to get into the next way. One of the things that a community can do to help secure the data of the people within that community. We're gonna chat about that. But that's what we need to do if we're concerned about it. If we want their world, we want the globalists' world to go dark, we simply need to secure our data. We've been passing it up and giving it away and creating that digital ID for quite some time. That momentum has built for a very long time. We need to take that back. And the simplest way you can do that is to stop giving them data. Now, let's go back to this commodity. The commodity is data, and I'm going to prove it. AI, I'm talking about its capabilities and capacities. AI is replacing high rises worth of people. Basically, anybody that works at a computer is actively being replaced by AI right now. And then I shouldn't say that. They're actually being replaced by people who know how to prompt AI to do the job of all those people. That's the better way to describe what's going on. It's not that AI is going to replace you. It's that someone who knows how to use AI to do your job, that's who's going to replace you. And high rises are currently being emptied out. We see incredible amounts of people beyond just the people that are missing work due to illness. We're seeing a huge swath of layoffs coming from even tech companies, where in the past, people who knew how to use computers were highly valued. In fact, they were paid even more. Computer programmers, computer science engineers, very lucrative careers. With even just a few years worth of education, you can make $250,000 in tech. But now those people who were valued that much, they're not being valued nearly as much anymore. Their time, the hours that they spent and continue to spend in programming things, is being condensed down to data. I'll give you an example. Lawyers right now can replace about 100 to 150 legal assistants. Those legal assistants would be costing, $60,000, $70,000 US per year. I'm just throwing out some numbers. If there's 100 of them, that's $6 million every single year of overhead that lawyer firms are paying for 100 legal assistants. One subscription to AI at about $100, $150 a month can replace 100 of those legal assistants. So now for about $1,000 to $1,500, give or take, $1,500 a year versus $6 million a year. Which would you choose? Obviously, you'd be choosing the more efficient option. And what's very notable is that AI is doing a better job than most of these legal assistants. In fact, when the newest version there, ChatGPT 4, came out, it was pitted against the bar exam, and it passed it in half an hour in the 90th percentile. So we have this old commodity that we've been using to make money, and that's called time. Our time has been it is the most valuable traded commodity in the world. And people say, no, it's gold. Gold's more valuable than that. Except it takes a human's time to go get the gold. So I get it. Gold is valuable, but it's no different than an apple that has to go get picked. There has to be labor involved. That's why they're called human resources, because your time is a resource and it gets traded. And it is a commodity. It's a tradable commodity. There are measurements that go involved when you are measuring the market. Human resources is one of the factors that you determine in the health of a market, in the health of an economy. But now that so many people who have a life of work in front of these devices that emit this fascinating blue light that we're addicted to, these people are being replaced. Their time isn't worth $40 an hour anymore, $50 an hour, $20 an hour. Their time in front of these computers is worth nothing, because you don't pay. Yeah, sure, you pay AI maybe by the month, but the actual unit of exchange that AI trades is not time. It's data. So we have a swath of people who've been using computers, and we've been addicted to them. Let's just admit, guys, I'm a freelance. I did freelance web design for a while. I started up a digital marketing agency. I was living in computers all the time. I got to know all about Facebook marketing and the intricacies there, and how many, if you have a full-scale agency, you've got no less than 15 people that are running just one campaign on Google, because of how many aspects of digital marketing there are. We have been inundated with creating data, and it's taken up a lot of our time, especially over the last 30, 40 years. But folks, the creation of that data, the mechanical act of us creating the data, can now be done with an automation tool. And that automation tool is just evolved from the computers that are sitting in front of us right now. And maybe you're on a mobile device. Well, that is just another evolution of a computer. AI is just another evolution of a computer. In fact, if you take a look at this idea of something doing this much work for us, in being able to transfer data and send it off to another location in an instant, we just have a super hyperspeed and interconnected network of printing presses. That's essentially what we have. This is given that this revolution is about information. We can now pass information around at lightning speed. And it's incomparable. You can't possibly quantify how much faster this information can be passed around than how much information got passed around right after the printing press started pressing books together. The rate of information that came out after the printing press allowed for peasants who didn't have a world much more than about 5-mile radius from where they were born. They didn't go any further than that. And they didn't even know of much beyond 20 miles from where they were born. The printing press made it possible within 2 generations where those peasants could now cross oceans. We just have a fancy printing press that is making it where we don't have to spend as much time on these things anymore and on computers. Are we really going to say, what am I going to do with all my time? Like a miner that doesn't have to labor to go get water out of a mine shaft. Folks, this potentially, if we do this right, our data, and we can create our own data, and we can have that data become a machine, and that machine can generate that data. Remember, people say, oh, it's going to run away on it. It only has data to go by. You can install a blank slate AI that has no real knowledge, but it has the programming to accept knowledge. And you can provide that knowledge to AI, and it can do your digital work for you. I'm going to give you an example. There's a gentleman named Tom Campbell who's on YouTube. He's got probably well over 1,000 videos. Many of them are 2-3 hours long. He's done lectures all over the world. He was a NASA physicist in the late 60s and into the 70s. And in his studies of astrophysics, he bumped up against consciousness. This idea of consciousness. What is consciousness? So he continued his studies and started teaching what consciousness was. Well, now he's got this over 1,000 videos, and he is currently taking those videos and uploading them to an AI of his own. This isn't an AI that is out there taking data and then passing that, transferring that. This is a secured AI that is his own. And what it's doing is what he's doing by the end of the fall, he says, and this is the timelines that we're seeing. By the end of the fall, this AI will be able to be his website. So now when you go to his website, you can ask any question you want to him, and his AI, the thing that he programmed with all of his videos, will, and it is already, he said, 90% accurate to his likeness. That's powerful. That's very, very powerful. What does that do? Well, he ends up not having to spend nearly as much time in front of the computer helping people. Now, the time that he spends can be directly with people. And to offset the amount of time and labor that would be required for him to help people from afar can now be done in an instant. This is why data is the commodity of the future. The fourth industrial revolution has occurred because of our ability to create data at lightning speeds. This is a reset, and it's great because now we have a miner's friend. Now, why do I bring up the miner's friend? Well, if we do not secure our data, if we end up getting corralled into a digital ID and seeing that data is the commodity of the future, your job will be to create data because that is the commodity of the future. So you will become a data miner. In fact, arguably, that's what we've been doing for the last 30 years. We've been mining data and submitting that data to the tech giants. They were always watching, weren't they? We knew that. There was no hiding that. I can remember in 2017 having an ad show up on my YouTube channel, on my YouTube watch list, rather. The ad popped up for Dristan. I don't buy Dristan, but earlier that day, when I first got up in the morning, I sniffed my nose and my phone heard me. And when I got to the computer, opened up my playlist, I had to watch an ad for Dristan. So we knew that they were listening to what we had to say. We knew that that data was being recorded. That data was constantly being mined all the time by us. So the reason why we should be looking at ways to employ AI is with the intention of making it so that we don't end up a slave mining the commodity of the future for the centralized holding companies of the data. I'm hoping that that comes through clearly. I want to hear some comments. We're going to go into the next section here. I'm going to close with that on that topic. We need to move on to the next part. It's 3 ways that communities can defy this globalist's great reset. And the first way is through data. We're going to get to the Q&A section right after this. I'm going to fire these through because I went a little bit long on that last section. So 3 ways. Number 1, create your own servers in your home. Now, servers can look a little bit different, especially in the future. All right, we've got this idea the server is a great big stack of computer hardware that stores information. We need to start thinking of servers a little bit differently. You want to have your own, but it doesn't always necessarily have to be in your home. Now, if you do, that's great. That's even more secure. But there are things called nodes that you can create where the information goes to a node, and that node disperses the information in a decentralized manner so that nothing is recognizable. And the only way that all that data can be brought back together into something coherent for you and me to see, or anybody to view, would be if there's a special key. And that key organizes all of those fragments of data into something that is viewable by you. Don't share that key, and no one will ever see what that data is. But you submit it out into the internets, and it fragments out, decentralizes, and then when you need it on demand, it'll come back into place for you to interact with. That's one way. Another way that that communities, so that's something that communities can support their community members with. Another way that a community can take this to another level is if they set up their own communications infrastructure. Well, that seems like a lot of work. I mean, in Canada, we've got TELUS, Rogers, Bell, and then all their subsidiaries. Those are massive, massive companies. How is it that we can start our own infrastructure? Well, there are open source projects that allow you to have full transmission of data, information, from one device to another. No different than any other internet service provider, but now it's open source. So a community could actually start utilizing their own internet service provider and provide the transmission of service within the community. And you can still access the internet. You can still, talk to people on the other side of the world, but it's the service of that data, the transference of that data that is handled by your community that created its own internet service provider through an open source protocol that allows even for mobile transmission of data. It's the old LTE networks. Before 4G and 5G came along, there was LTE. Well, that's an open source network that you can use. And it's more than enough speed to even watch your Netflix. I'm of the belief that these extra speeds that we see in the 4G and 5G, that those extra speeds are to be able to transfer more data. But the amount of data that they plan on transferring in the 4th Industrial Revolution is huge. It's so mountainous because they're able to add things like biometric data, which is a whole nother world of data that gets transferred. And there are ways that you can secure that as well. If you go back to my Substack there a few months ago, I interviewed Bruce Backman, who is actively securing all of his biometric data. So, those wearables and stuff like that, people, track heart rate and all that stuff, that is all secure data for him. It's beautiful. It's beautiful what's possible if we're shown these options. We're not shown these options day to day. I mean, it's like the digital IDs coming out, and people are thinking that that's the only option, when there are lots of other options on ways to identify yourself with other people, especially online. There are lots of other ways that you can go about that. We're conditioned to believe that their way is the only way that it gets done. More about that on another call. The third way, so we're going to cover 3 ways that communities can defy the globalists' Great Reset. Number 1, secure your data. Number 2, secure the transference of that data. Start your own internet service provider if you want. Now, the third thing that communities can do to defy the globalists' Great Reset, and this brings us back to the next gen merchant, is your own local markets. We can recognize that there's a whole new type of food shortage that's out there. It's invisible. In the past, it's been very easy to tell. Oh my goodness, look at Holodomor, for example. How much famine occurred, orchestrated shortages. Well, today, the shortage is orchestrated, but it looks a lot different. It's invisible today because the stores still have a lot of food. At least lots of boxes of things that are said to be edible. But the nutritional value has gone down so much that we are literally in an orchestrated famine. The local markets provide an avenue for the small farmers who are permaculturalists, who recognize how important it is for the livestock to be fed ancestrally consistent diets. We need those farmers to have their product brought to market. So if there's no farmers market, how else are they supposed to get their stuff to the market? Referral, I get it, and maybe some of them probably do great in that. But any farm that is only reliant on just their community has got to have a strong community if they don't have a market where they can bring their wares and find more customers. So if you are in a community and you do not have a local market where people can bring their wares. Now, farmers are one thing, but for instance, the farmers market that we've got more things than just farmers. We've got a woman who makes her own batting out of wool for quilts or for pillows. We've got someone who does live blood analysis who has a table at our farmers market. We've got someone who brings honey, so beekeepers, herbalists. My wife is an herbalist. These are the things that we need to see brought forward into our communities. We need this commerce to continue. And we also need the merchants of this next generation, the merchants of the fourth industrial revolution, recognize that there is another commodity that is highly undervalued right now. And we're going to see as a result of the emergence of AI, one of the benefits of AI, believe it or not, will be that we will begin to value connection more. We're going to be valuing community more because the genuine authenticity that you can experience when you are working with people face to face is so much more valuable than anything that you could do through a screen. So when we recognize as small business owners, as local merchants, when we recognize that value of exchange between two people face to face, the value of that is going to far surpass the commodity of data. The commodity of data will still be traded. It'll still be in existence. It'll still run around. It'll still be passed around and transferred all over the world. And it will back the 5 pillars of the fourth industrial revolution. That's exactly what's going to happen. But the face-to-face connection with other people, that is going to be far more valuable in the very near future. We're going to open up to live Q&A here, but before I do that, I want to invite you. And you can leave a comment on Twitter if you want. We can chat about it here. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment. If you want to connect with me on social media or on Substack, reach out. But I have an invitation to you to the next gen merchant. This is now in pre-launch. There is a landing page, and I can send that to you if you're interested. We're not doing a full-on campaign with it quite yet. This soft launch is allowing the nation builders of tomorrow. These are the small business owners, the local merchants, the people who have tangible products and services that need to get to their market where that most valuable exchange can occur. We want to equip them to prosper and thrive during this fourth industrial revolution. The Great Reset has already started. That's what COVID set off. It was like, okay, let's do this. Let's launch COVID. That's the first wave of this operation. That marked the beginning of the Great Reset. And still to this day, a lot of businesses are left in the dark. Some of them are being ruined by the contraction in the market that was orchestrated in order to create this problem with the economy so that people eventually would scream and cry and beg the government for more solutions, which of course will result in them bringing forward the solution that they've been building for the last few decades, the CBDC, to alleviate this economic problem. But we don't have to be a part of that. And the next gen merchants are showing these business owners in live Q&A sessions. We don't do a whole lot of the, go and watch those 40 videos and then come back to us. We're working with these people one-on-one many times. We have live chat happening in Discord. We're meeting up face-to-face many times. And the online training that goes on is direct. People are able to have immediate access to us. We're showing them how to make their digital work a lot lighter so that they can focus on more important things like having genuine, authentic connection with people within their community. So that's my invitation to you guys. Hit me up. I'm going to open things up for questions. We've got a request here. I'm going to go ahead and tap that. And it says, Rick, go ahead, my friend. You are on the line. It says that I got you in there. What do I do? Invite speaker?
Yeah,
there you
got
are.
A speaker here.
Yeah, now I got you.
Yeah, that was perfect presentation, Paul.
Appreciate it.
I really like it. You're a great speaker, even better writer. I must say your Substacks are great. So anybody who is not familiar with Paul's Substacks, get in touch with him and subscribe. I highly recommend it. I guess a lot what you talk about could be really overwhelming, and it's taken me a little while to digest it. And what you're talking about is totally possible. But if we change a few words around and we change the way we address things like non-compliance, let's change it to you just don't want to participate. You don't like the rules of the game. You don't play the game. You find a game you like.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Love it.
A lot of people get like overwhelmed. Like, well, how do I get outside the grid? How do I get out on my own? How do I do all of this? And they go into it and they're absorbing this, or they're trying to absorb it, and they're under the impression they have to do it all on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what I encounter with people that I make these sort of presentations to. And I guess a good way to present it would be like, well, you don't have to participate in this, and no, you're not alone. And even the term community has been so distorted over the last 30, 40 years. Paul, when you first asked me a year ago, how is your community doing? I didn't know what to tell you because I didn't know what my community was. Right? People need to have a clear definition of what their community is, or at least learn how to find that definition.
I love that. Yeah.
I really like how you touched on the local merchants and markets. Now, if people really want to learn about escaping this matrix or escaping like the game or whatever you would like to call it. Start small, right? And the first thing that anybody can do is stop spending money at big supermarkets, Walmart, Loblaws. Like, get to know where your farmers markets are, get to know where your one-off businesses are. Like, one thing I've made a really good effort at this year was not spending money at Walmart, Loblaws, Sobeys, etc., etc. H&W Produce here in Edmonton is a great start. It's a one-of business. Yeah, they do have a chain of stores, but they aren't affiliated with these big grocery producers. Find your local like Hutterite colony that has a meat store.
Yes.
Grow your own garden or be friendly with your neighbor. They'll be happy to help you with vegetables. I know I am. I grow more than I need, and I'm happy to share with my neighbors. That's the simplest thing. That's the first step you can do. And when you start doing something like that, you achieve a bit of a clarity, because now there's already one little pressure off of you. Like, oh, I'm already not spending money with Walmart. So once that pressure is gone, it's like, okay, what else can I do? Step one is achieved. I'm not giving Walmart my money. I'm not giving Loblaws my money. Okay, on to the next thing.
Right.
For a lot of people, this needs to be baby steps.
Yes.
Right? A lot of people think, I just need to disconnect from the internet. I need to stop spending money. I need to stop using debit cards. And, and it gets to a point where it could be quite overwhelming. And the easiest option would be, well, I'm just going to go with it because it's easier. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I want to discourage that kind of behavior.
Right. Yeah. I don't do this cold turkey, folks. This is a process. The reason I can talk the way that I do, and the reason why I'm fluent in this discussion, is because I recognized what the digital ID was in 2008. And so I started preparing my affairs already at that time, and it was a lot of work. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I remember 2013, 14, I was still messing up a lot, but it took me a lot of time. And what I'm doing is I'm helping. What I'm wanting to do, my objective with Next Gen Merchant, is to help minimize that learning time, because there are a lot of pitfalls out there. And people who are like the sovereign citizens and stuff like that, they're tripping up on themselves. There's no need to go to those lengths. You just need to have a clearer comprehension of what a digital ID is, or what any ID is, and the delineation between that and yourself. That takes time to practice in the mind. There's a specific language that you need to start using, and it's going to take some time. Now, what I want to do is that I want to shorten that time, because we're getting close. We're getting down to the wire here, right? The COVID started this whole thing, and a part of me wishes that I would have started teaching about the digital ID sooner. But we were dealing with a lot of people who were in states of emergency. Everything from being told that they had to wear a mask, into going and being told that they had to get the jab, so on and so forth. Yeah, they panicked. And so I helped out wherever I possibly could. But I knew from the get-go, before COVID was even a word, I knew that there was an operation coming forward to funnel us in to this digital ID, because they know that we are of the mind. We have that old paradigm that says that we are that card, that driver's license is our identity. Can I see your ID? Well, sure. But the fact of the matter is, it's not yours.
No, it belongs to the government of Alberta, or the government of Ontario, or the government of whatever douche cunt fucking administration sold it to you.
How do you really feel?
Right. Sorry for the language. But I gotta say, Paul, I don't often disagree with you. Actually, I don't think I disagree with you. The one thing I do disagree is when you say we're coming down to the wire and it's coming fast. I will say this. I think communities coming together, people waking up, people thinking for themselves, people starting to be self-sufficient and relying on each other is dramatically outpacing the Great Reset that they have planned for us.
You are correct, my friend. You are absolutely right.
Right.
And
so when you say, oh, like, you know, you make it sound like time is running out. Yes, time is running out, but not for us.
No, not for us. But there are a lot of people who don't.
We're just getting started, right? That machine is redlined.
Yeah.
We still have like 6 years left.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right?
When I'm saying that, you know, we're running out of time, it's when I say we, I should be more specific. I mean the people who don't know that there's another option. A lot of people, like, it's no different than people who got the jab, right? Because they felt they had no other option. Time ran out for them because they went and got it, right? So the same idea when I'm saying, I definitely hear what you're saying, and I think we're definitely on the same page. When I know full well that you are going to be fine. I mean, you're sovereign enough that you don't have to worry about it. And a lot of people on this call are very, very, very close, or if not very, like,
I'm not sure where everybody else is at this call, and I don't mean to, like, you know, ear fuck everybody in stereo. I was just trying to bring a little bit of levity and let everybody know, like, you know, we're on the right track, and I'm confident we're outpacing. We're outpacing this machine that we don't want to be captured by. You know,
agreed.
There's enough people out there, such as yourself, that is offering this help, but there is a lot of people that they are just starting to wake up now, and they're just like, you know, like, oh my goodness, you know, what have I done? And then they're going through those steps of grief. They're going through the regret. They're going through the denial. They're going through the acceptance. They're doing all that. And while they're doing that, they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I've been just trying to help people by starting, like, stop spending money at Walmart.
Yeah.
There's your first step.
Yeah.
That's the first step. Stop doing that. Start eating. And I don't like to use the term eating better. I like to say eat well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you said, all this, there's a lot of food in the stores, all in boxes. Right?
Yep.
Any meal you could imagine comes in a box or a bag.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the shelf. And you will be full, but that's all you will be.
Yeah, not nourished.
Not nourished. You're not feeding your soul.
Yeah.
You're not feeding your machine. You're feeding their machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and this is just me, but the people out there that just don't know where to start, I think that is a great gateway to promote. And once you promote that, it's like the gas pedal. The further you press it, the faster you go, and the more power you've got. And I was really hoping there would be maybe some more people tonight that were interested in this. I've been, you know, really trying to reach people, even in my social circle, my neighbors. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out a way to do this without being like, cut off your internet, cut up your cards, and disappear, you know? Like, how do you do that? How do you present that? How do you introduce somebody to a better way? Like, how do you do that without sounding crazy?
Oh man, you're gonna sound crazy. You can't say the right thing to the wrong people, and thankfully, you can't say the wrong thing to the right people either. You can't say you can't say the right thing to the wrong people, and you can't say the wrong thing to the right ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, in our situation, I mean, we've known each other a couple years now. I was just fortunate to go sit in on you talking. I mean, you know, our situation, you really saved my bacon. For the people that that don't know who are listening, my wife was mandated to get a vaccine while she was pregnant with my third son. Paul and his team had put together a legal document to protect people such as me. And that legal document he gave to me and didn't ask me for a cent. And he saved my wife and my son's life. And, you know, we're all here and we're a family today because of that. And that's what just accelerated my interest in this. I don't know why anybody else is here, but I mean, Paul knows what he's talking about, and he's got really, really good ideas. You don't have to agree with all of them, but we should take everything into consideration and really start working together.
Dude, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I want to get things going here because I've only got a few more minutes, and I've got Jay from down south there. He wants to come in. I'm gonna let him in. You're on there, revolutionizer. Oh, there he is.
Hey, I was having trouble on a mobile device and was sitting over here. I was listening on Bluetooth.
No worries.
How y'all doing tonight?
Yeah, things are going pretty good, as you can tell. Living the dream.
I enjoyed your presentation and was enlightened by it. I know you've been working real hard, and I want to say first I appreciate all your hard work and you putting forth this on the space tonight.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, I have one question regarding a conversation you and me had a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know how things developed, but the way you gave the presentation tonight, you didn't actually go into the process of creating the digital ID.
Yeah. I didn't go into that because that's a pretty involved conversation. But yeah, okay. It's entirely possible.
Like without going into it and all that, my question is this. Your presentation tonight, what seemed might be relative, but it might not, you might dismiss it, but you have to be paid because you're putting forth your effort if somebody wants to learn how, correct, to do all the things that you're presenting.
You know what, when it comes to pay, my friend, I'm not that interested in getting paid to help people avoid the digital ID. My focus is to educate the business owners on how to retake their economy back so they can thrive.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, I just have the idea that there could be more people like you helping more and more people if they were able to create their little node with their data.
Yeah.
And through monetizing it could pay for the education and the development. Like say I'm moving to Mexico, I want to mirror the stuff that you're talking about.
Right. Oh my goodness. In Mexico, man, you would clean house if you started up. Yeah.
I'm going to be in Puerto Vallarta. As an international airport is 6 hours from me in Mississippi.
Yep.
But I was just thinking a way to generate income would be if the people created those nodes we were talking about and monetized them. This money they didn't have to begin with, and they could put portion of it to learning and to networking and building the infrastructure. But that's just something I thought about when I listened to your presentation tonight.
Wow, I appreciate that. Yeah, and definitely. I mean, the teaching that I do around that's I don't foresee that being behind a paywall. The business owners are going to get kind of a special treatment because I'm going to show them how to not only create a digital ID for themselves, but I'm also going to show them how to get their business registered with its own identifier so that they can isolate it completely from the matrix.
It seems to me it could be a business in itself of creating the people's digital ID.
Well, that's the idea. The community's got to do that. So someone honestly, I think that every community should have someone step forward and be like, I'll start up the node.
Right. Well, I'm going to do that in Mexico. I haven't talked to you in, man, it's been like 8 months or something. I've been kind of taking a detour and going to exit the U.S.
Yep.
But it looks to be that the silver lining is that I can create my community down there and keep networking with you And like you said, I can create the node.
Absolutely.
But anyway, keep that in mind, and I'm going to be in touch with you to set up a meeting. Anybody who's on the call tonight that wants to network with me, I'll be networking with Paul. I'll be in Puerto Vallarta in 3 weeks, and it'll probably take me a month or two to get completely settled. But I'm planning on trying to mirror everything you're talking about. That's
awesome, man. Yeah, and I look forward to that journey, man. I think it's going to be a great learning experience for yourself. But then, as you learn and you teach others what you learn, it's gonna spread like wildfire.
PV is about 40% expats. They call it like Europeans, Canadians, Americans who move down there.
Yep.
So, it would seem to be more friendly to that idea.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. And I really appreciate it. And I enjoyed your and was enlightened by your presentation. I appreciate you putting it out tonight.
Oh, no, man. I appreciate you.
Recorded?
Thank you.
Is it recorded?
Yeah, this is recorded and it's up also on YouTube as well. And when this is all done, I will be taking that video, kind of parsing it down. I'll take out the long pauses and stuff like that and put it up on my Substack as well.
Yeah, but anyway, I appreciate it, and keep me in mind. Do I set up a meeting with you the same way as I did before?
Yeah, you can do that for sure. You know what? Just I might have changed that link. Maybe just message me on Twitter there, and I'll send you the new one.
Okay, sounds good. Keep me in mind, and it's nice to be back networking with you and everybody who's on the call. My name's Jonathan. I go by Jay. I'm in Mississippi right now. Like I said, I'll be in Puerto Vallarta. I'd say settled in a month or two.
Love you, brother.
Man.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, bye-bye.
Much appreciated. Awesome. Well, folks, this was great. I love the fact that we were able to do this here this evening. I look forward to more meetings like this. This is just one aspect that I cover within my Substack, and then within the Next Gen Merchants. Folks, we're in a good place. We really are. There is a lot of insecurity, or a lot of people right now that are hungry for answers. They don't know where to turn. And it's scary for a lot of people. I actually, my heart goes out to them. It really does. I'm
with you on that.
We're about to witness one of the most transformational times in all of our known history. And, the people who are on this call, I have a call to you. This is my call to action to you. I want you to take this information and share it with someone else, someone that you care about. I want you to share it, and even if it's just a piece of it, share it with them. Give them some hope. Give them some vision of what life could be like for themselves and for their families, for their communities. Because that's what we need right now. We need some good news. And there's a whole division of people within the Next Gen Merchants that are actually going to be trained up as good news merchants. Because that right there, think about it. If the quality of the data that these Next Gen Merchants produce in this next revolution, where data is one of the highest traded commodities by volume, imagine how valuable the data would be if it provided hope, if it provided clarity, if it helped people find their purpose, if it helped people find their fulfillment in life. And that's my ask for those of you who are listening. If you can hear the sound of my voice, this is my call to you. It's a rally cry. Share the good news that there are options out there. Nobody has to experience this by themselves. Nobody has to be alone. Nobody has to be corralled into a digital ID or a CBDC. There are lots of options out there. And you who are listening to this now, you could be somebody for someone else and show them that there's a better way. Show them how this war can end. Well, thank you all so much for coming on to this call, and I look forward to the stories and the feedback that you guys have. Leave comments. Find me on Substack, manknownasppaul.substack.com. Ask me questions. And if you want to get in on the pre-launch for Next Gen merchants and even earn some extra money as a good news merchant, I'll show you how. Because here we go, folks. We're here. We're here, and it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. This reset is going to be great. And I can see a clear path to where the people take this great reset and claim it as their own.
Oh, I like that.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you later.
Thank you, Paul.